Hello everybody, Image here, and I'm going to be joined by Weapons Left to cast Day 4 of the E-Stars Seoul Heritage League, a set of exciting games and hopefully some exciting commentary from us. It was both our first live and dual casts, and I'm editing this a little bit in at the intro to the first video. Basically, I'm going to have this cut directly into our pre-game discussions and then the game. When we were live casting this, we were a little bit blindsided by the game starting, and so the first game, at least, is going to be a little bit disorganized at the start. The commentary, however, once the game starts off, should be just fine. If you don't want to listen to all of the preamble that we're going to have here, you should probably skip ahead about 3.5 minutes, because I think that's about as long as it's going to take for the game to start on the video. Cheers everyone, hope you enjoy. Turning it over to my previously recorded self, Image out. Another interesting thing to note for this one is the teammate battle, because they're both Air Force aces, and
Indeed.
And just from my observations of the scene, I know there's been a lot of back and forth debate about which of these two is the best player on ace. Because undeniably these two players, and also Go Rush, have played a really large role in revitalizing the ace team, especially in round 4 of the Pro League this year. But I'd be interested to hear your take on which of the two is the better player right now.
I mean, honestly, to me, as far as recent games and the most latest rounds in the Pro League, I think that it's almost undeniable that Reach has been playing better StarCraft. As far as the individual matchups in terms of Protoss versus Protoss or Protoss versus Zerg, for instance, I think that Anytime has an advantage in some of the other matchups. I think this Protoss versus Protoss is extremely good, and I think that that's part of the reason why the series between those two stands the way it does. But I would say that Reach on the whole is certainly just playing better StarCraft. I mean, which the irony of that obviously being that he is coming off in this tournament the loss to Tosgirl most recently, which just I don't think anybody at all saw coming, period.
I know I didn't, and like I mentioned, I didn't see the game, but I was definitely shocked when I saw that result. I didn't see it coming, especially after Tosgirl's performance the tournament date before with her game against Yellow.
Yeah, I mean, it just looked like she was not in particularly good form, and by the same token, you had Reach, who was actively getting all that time, on TV, playing in the Pro League, was doing relatively well, had put down some pretty impressive games. Honestly, was running a relatively decent streak, and then yeah, you just never know. That's part, I guess, what's so intriguing about StarCraft in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Tosgirl, she's going to be on in Game 2 against Boxer, which should be definitely really interesting to watch.
Yeah, I'm actually more than a little bit curious about that, just because of the fact that, I mean, Boxer is Boxer, so, everybody would love to see that game, and, I'd love to watch him play, regardless of who he's playing. But, because of the fact that you have those two personalities involved, and because Boxer is in what you would consider a more vulnerable state, it just makes the matchup that much more intriguing.
And you'd consider him in a vulnerable state, but he has actually been pretty much beasting his way through this whole tournament so far, and it'll be interesting to see if he's going to be able to keep that momentum up.
That's actually very true, and I would have to think that the majority of people would love to see him carry on in his Boxer-ness. You made a very valid point that he's looked extremely sharp in this tournament thus far. So I'd be more than happy to see that continue. That trend would not be something that I'd like to see stopped anytime soon. But it looks like we're actually about to get going here in this Anytime versus Reach game.
Yeah, that just hit the 0 for me, and yeah, we're off. So we are playing this one on Destination. We've got Reach in red. He's at the 11 o'clock position, and we've got Anytime in white at the 5.
Yeah, and it should be interesting, really, to see what these guys do against each other, as we mentioned before, because of the fact that they are teammates. Obviously, this is not this is not a rare occasion. I'm sure they've played each other countless times at this point, and are very familiar with each other's capabilities. So whenever you have a situation where you've got teammates playing each other at a similar skill level, you always have to be wary, I guess, of the mind games that these guys are going to be capable of playing against each other.
Absolutely, and another interesting question to consider is who their practice partners have been for this, because they probably haven't been playing against each other, and they wouldn't want to use the same practice partners, and the only other Protoss on Air Force Ace right now, I believe, is Dezang, so I wonder who they've tapped to practice for this one, and if that's going to give any player an advantage in the game.
Yeah, it's always interesting, honestly, the more you delve into the scene to try and be, and try and, I guess, to tap into which players are, have befriended and or have relationships with others, because, you sometimes you get surprising things after games and post-game interviews for the practice partners that you just wouldn't expect.
Yeah, absolutely, and let's see, we have some scouts going out, roughly simultaneously for each player. A very tall white guy on the stream. Yeah, I don't think that... I don't know if practice partners are going to make such a huge difference. I wonder if you can read what that said.
Yeah, I too wonder. But yeah.
Foray. That sign is awesome, and it's misspelled too. For a year.
Yeah, which just adds to the flavor. A lot of English spectators, though, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, and the I will destroy everyone sign for our third match today. This is going to be great if these signs are any indication.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. And going to the game, actually, it looks like second pylon coming up. It looks like gateways up for both players. And I believe that I saw simulators up for both players as well. The builds are mirroring each other at this point in time, which is not surprising at all. And the scouts in both faces.
Yeah, that's right, and it's also worth noting that both players have actually planted anti-manor pylons for their first pylon, so I guess they were both suspecting some early game manor pylon annoyances from the other player, and there's a second gate for Reach.
Yeah, indeed. I did note that, so there's going to be no tomfoolery as far as that's concerned. And it looks like, I don't know if the observer is actually keyed in on the what's warping in, if that's another gateway or yet. No, that's just a side core actually for anytime. So he's not going to take his second gateway this time. So that's the first deviation. That's actually rather.
He could still add the gateway before very long, but yeah, that is our first deviation. I guess he's going to wait until he can get rid of that scouting probe from Reach to decide what he's going to do. Looks like there's the second gateway going up now.
Yep, and there you have it, exactly. And that's, obviously not surprising at all. As strong a scouting unit as probes tend to be, it's always important to try and get them out of your base before you start making your moves up the tech tree, especially in Protoss versus Protoss, where there are some power counters that it really can change the momentum of the game so drastically.
Absolutely, and it's similar in Protoss versus Zerg, because the Zerg has so many options against Protoss, and similarly against Protoss, the Protoss have so many options that if you're playing it, you want to keep that probe alive in the other person's base as long as possible so that you can react.
Exactly.
In this case, however, I think both of the probes are now out of the bases.
Yeah, and I did see Reach researching at a cybernetics core, so I'm assuming range obviously is coming for him. It'll be interesting to see if he, I noted that he got his gateway up earlier, but I don't know if that's going to have any effect on the game or his production. It looks like he does have more offensive units out on the field at this point, and I'm curious to see if he's going to use those for any type of early aggression, or if he's just, going to be content to play a little bit of defense and actually utilize those gateways a little bit more as the game progresses on.
Yeah, he's got a choice as to how he's going to use the one or two more offensive units that he has. He can either use it to mount some pressure, or he can use it to secure an expansion. And yeah, that's another thing to watch for here. As he's teching up, he's using his resources to add a robotics facility before doing anything else.
Indeed, and I'm curious to see if he's going to be going to the offensive route or if he might be going observer first and playing a little bit more standard. I feel as though Reach is going to play this a little bit more offensively, if anything. I think that he's probably confident in his skills at this point, and really obviously wants to make a showing to try and even up this series. Or if not, taking advantage, and it looks like he's actually going to. We might see an encounter here sometime in the very near future as Reach is pushing up right next to his anytime space. Actually, no, he's going to retreat this time, so maybe just trying to secure a map advantage and taking his natural expansion.